Now is a more
Another scare
crucial time than
campaign
ever
for Mr. Howard.
family values to stand up and be counted.
Hi, welcome back to YouDecide2007.org for our fourth week. Thanks for coming back in increasing numbers each week and obviously telling your friends. And YouDecide2007.org, as you all know by now, is a site where you come, you report, you decide, and then we help to interpret that for Bris 31 each Friday night. We've had a few changes in our panel tonight. Joining us, we've got Vivian Hogg. Vivian is a arts specialist supported by the Australia Council for the Arts, and she's currently producing a media art production for the Brisbane Festival. We've got Jason Wilson. Jason Wilson's actually a top dog on the YouDecide site. He runs it. Got any complaints? Jason at YouDecide2007.org. And John Harrison, he's very accessible too, and a journalism educator at Queensland University. The first segment we thought we'd do is to look at the Greens candidate for Brisbane, talking about her candidacy, about the election in general, and also about her opponents and the seat she's running for.
Obviously you have children and you're a woman, and there's been a lot of talk about women can't balance family life and politics. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. I think women are very unique in the way they tackle their lives and their challenges, and I think for any working mother and any working parent in general that is the case. I don't think being a politician is any different. Obviously you're under a lot of public scrutiny, and historically women seem to be in the spotlight far more in politics, but I also believe the more women and the more mothers that are in politics, the less that will happen. 50% of Australians are women, but certainly 50% of our politicians aren't, so we're grossly underrepresented. Probably the focus is more on to be a woman in politics, you have to be really ballsy and hard-nosed, and you have to be like the men, and I think women actually bring, rather than trying to emulate men, they bring a really unique focus into politics. Women, I was just reading recently a paper about women in politics, talking about women moving into or being put forward in marginal seats because women appeal to voters far more than men do, which is a nice thought. I'm not really sure what the basis of that is, but that in fact women would be better going into safe seats where they really have to, where a politician has to really fight to maintain their seat, because they work so hard and they're so dedicated, and I think part of that comes from having to prove yourself as being a woman in politics.
Welcome back. Well, it was a fairly cheerful interview, I thought, for a candidate who on most reckonings wouldn't have a chance of winning that seat by Bull's Roar. John, what drives minor candidates? What drives not just minor candidates, but candidates for major parties in seats they've got no chance of winning?
Well, once you get past the sort of innate narcissism of people wanting to be in politics, I think for some of them that they actually do want to make a genuine contribution to the community and to the society in which we live. I think in the case of someone like this, it's possible that she can actually influence the outcome of the seat. Certainly in the Senate, the minor parties have got a much better chance of not only influencing the outcome but actually being a real player. I think in Queensland, for example, in the Senate, we're going to see some changes of faces in the minor parties.
Well, I should probably make a declaration. I've done it. I've been a candidate running in a seat there was no chance of running, Kevin Rudd's seat of Griffith. But I'm just wondering, Vivian?
Against Kevin Rudd?
No. I think Kevin Rudd was probably being a diplomat at the time. But Vivian, yeah. Would you put your name up there in lights and run for a minor party or a major party in an unwinnable seat?
No, I absolutely wouldn't. That's probably why I'm in the arts. I think I get my attention seeking out through other mechanisms. I just wonder also about whether it's just part of the party mechanisms, whether they feel like they need to sort of have enough candidates out there to look like they're being an active party, and even if they know some of them aren't going to get up, they just like to feel like they've got a presence on the ground, and that's why you see so many of these sort of perhaps not very viable candidates, is a way of putting it.
Well, there's good organisational reasons for doing this, don't they, Jason? Have you got any insight into...
Well, I think it's about, as John and Vivian have already said, it's about being seen to contest the field, and they get a platform, they get a whole bunch of community forums and media opportunities to push the party's message. It improves their bargaining position with the major parties, when it comes to preference exchanges and things like that. And it gives their supporters someone to vote for as well. So, there's no downside really, except the expense.
And in the House of Reps, it's also about maximising the Senate vote for the minor parties. So if you've got the field covered, if you're contesting, that helps your Senate vote, where the real action is in terms of minor parties.
I thought it was a pretty graceful interview. You know, I thought she came across as being a nice, open, warm, pleasant person. And the thing that really struck me was when she was talking about Arch Bevis, she said, quote, "He's a lovely man."
Yes.
Do you think politics would be different if the major parties, or would it be feasible for major party candidates to be open like that? I mean, we've had problems getting some of the majors to even give us interviews, and there's issues with some of them not even turning up to candidate meetings and issue meetings in the electorate.
Look, I think it is an issue to persuade people to be part of the democratic process, and it's just so refreshing to see somebody who's articulate, engaged, switched on, connected, and very well grounded. I mean, I think that Elizabeth Carlile actually ticked a lot of hot button issues for people in terms of issues of work-life balance, childcare. I think some of her views on childcare would be resonating with thousands and thousands of women in the electorate right across the country.
And she did make the point that she thought women did better in elections than men. I'm not sure, is there any research on that?
Oh, there's lots of research. Whether it's conclusive or not is another question. Certainly, female candidates are not perceived as being as divisive, and they can almost be anti-politics candidates. You know, where you've got people like Tony Abbott, who's a real biffo merchant, really give politics a bad name and the political process a bad name. There is a need. I mean, Lynn Allison is an example of a person who's got a softer edge, and people are prepared to listen to articulate, more softly spoken female candidates rather than sort of knuckle dragging biffo boys.
Yeah, but do you really think they're seen as credible politicians? Do you really think that people vote for them thinking, okay, this person's going to represent me in Parliament when it gets tough?
I think one thing you can say is that the Greens have really done what John suggested, and they put a lot of high-profile female candidates out there,
well, not just the Greens. I mean, Anna Bligh, the new Premier of Queensland, wouldn't have been given a show 5 years ago, but I suspect one of the reasons she's now Premier is because after Peter Beattie they were looking for a different face and someone who might appeal more to the community. And you look around Australia and you've had instances of that: Victoria, Joan Kerner, Carmen Lawrence, Western Australia. Sally Ann Atkinson was probably effective for the Liberal Party in Brisbane because she was a woman.
Yeah, but we're all talking about exceptions to the rule here, and I still think, especially in the field of federal politics, it's seen as a man's game. I really don't think that in the jaundiced eyes of the public that women are really that often seen as very credible candidates, especially not minor ones.
In terms of maximising, the Greens maximising their vote in the electorate of Brisbane though, I mean, I met her at a candidates forum the other night. She presents well, she speaks well. I think she made a really good impression on the audience in politics in the pub, and given that, as we say, it's very unlikely that she's going to win, I think she'll still do a good job of getting them the biggest slice of the vote that they can possibly get.
Okay, well, it sounds like a good seat to watch to see how Bright and Cheerful fares in the seat of Brisbane and in this election.